Oh hey guys, welcome back to another butter landings video. Today I will be teaching you how to butter the 737. Yes, you guys have known for a very long time. You've wanted to know how I butter so well my planes. And it's not autopilot, though many people have said that. It's not autopilot. Anyway, let's get into it. First of all, I have this livery extension, which I'll link down below, a tutorial and the GitHub to where to get the code. Anyway, let's get an interesting livery like Ryanair, even though this is KLAX. We don't care. You can get Ryanair. I'll be teaching how to butter in the outside view and in the cockpit view for those of you who want to be more professional. Now, before you start the flight, when you spawn in, so let's just spawn in at this runway over here. GeoFS will give you flap 0, gear 0. Pretty much nothing will be set. Notice how the poppy lights are white, which means you're way too high. GeoFS always does this, so you will have to first lose altitude. So here's a little bit of a pre-flight thing that you gotta do. Unpause the simulator, set the engine to 2 by pressing the 2 button. Put the flaps all the way out by pressing the bracket button. So flaps 8, and then restart, pause. Alright, so now you're just gonna be out here, and after you pause the simulator, you have to put the gear down and you want to go into a dive. This seems kind of weird, like you're gonna gain a lot of speed. It's not gonna really be proper for a landing, but trust me, it is. Not in real life though. So unpause the simulator, gear down, you're gonna go into a steep dive, sort of a steep dive, until you're about 1,000 feet above the ground. Then you're gonna start pulling up. And look at that, 2 red, 2 white, and we are on the proper height for the runway. But we're a little too high right now. Whoops. Alright, so we're gonna just keep going here. Don't apply any spoilers or something. You know, the air resistance will just slow you down eventually, and you'll get to like 150 knots before you reach the threshold of the runway. See, we're already at 150 knots. I kind of like to be at 150 knots at the threshold of the runway, so I'm going to apply a little more power, but you don't have to. I just did that because I can. Okay, now we're going to use the arrow keys to slowly lower the landing gears of this plane onto the runway. Use the shadow to gauge depth above the runway. By the way, the time in the in-game is 12 o'clock, and that was okay. Wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. Sort of on the center line, not really on the touchdown zone. Don't worry if you're doing this for your first time. If it's not on the touchdown zone, just don't worry about that, and just get buttering down before you actually go for other aesthetics like center line and touchdown zone, because it can be hard at first. Let's review this.
150,
Slowly lower the plane onto the runway.
150, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Okay, that was pretty bad. It does take me a couple tries to film these videos, by the way. So yeah. Slap up to the ground. True Ryanair landing. Anyway, let's go back to the start. Restart. Pause. Okay. So we've gotten that done. You slowly use the arrow keys to lower your plane onto the runway. In-game time is 12 o'clock. So you should be able to do this quite easily. It's easy on lighter runways, for example, Grand Cayman. If you search that up in the flight simulator, Grand CAYMAN in the location tab, it has a really light runway. It's really good for determining shadows. Places like SFO don't really have that light of a runway. They have really dark runways. So if you're buttering from the outside view, you can't really tell. But it doesn't really matter which runway you land from, cockpit view. So that's like one of the downsides of buttering from outside view. Anyway, let's switch to cockpit cam. Wait for it to load in. There it goes. You know what? GeoFS should really add some like interactive cockpits. I mean, we already can interact with the throttle and the trim in this one, and the speed brake, but not really much else. And then even in the A350 or something like that, you still can't interact in the throttle. Oops, what did I do? Ah. Okay, now everything's loaded in. Engine power is set to 2. Flaps are set to full. Engine power is to 2. And we're gonna restart gear, go into a steep dive. And one thing about buttering from cockpit view is you're always gonna want to keep aware that the 737 does like to drift to the right. So you always have to keep constantly pressing the left arrow button to readjust the plane on course. Okay, we're losing speed already. Okay, we're at the right height. Poppy lights are red and white. I think I'm a little low. That's not that much of a concern. I'm off center line. Very bad. It's like 5 in the morning right now. Yeah, we're too low. Oh no. Okay, we're pretty much on center line. And now we're just gonna watch. Pause the simulator. We're going to watch this number right here, up above the inertial, up above the display, right beside the altitude indicator. It says 36 right now. That means we're 36 feet above the ground. The thing about GeoFS is it doesn't count the gear, so technically ground would be 10 feet. So technically we're only 26 feet above the ground. Just keep that in mind when you're buttering. 10 feet is ground level. I'm going to reset the cam. Okay. There we go. 36 feet, 138 knots. It's a little slower than I'd like to be, but it's fine. Okay. And unpause. I'm going to start pulling up around 20 knots. I mean 20 feet above the ground. Oh, I pulled up too much. Ryanair landing. That was a Ryanair landing. And we don't talk about the center line. Yeah, we don't talk about the center line. I'm not the best demonstrator, am I? Anyway, let's go into replay mode and see what that landing looked like. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? Oh, Ryanair landing. Congrats, that was like 300 FPM. Negative 300 FPM. Wow. But yeah, guys, that is how you butter from the cockpit view and the outside view. With the cockpit view, you just want to basically, all you're doing is setting the engines to 2 for both of these, flaps to full. You're going to press gear down when you unpause the simulator, and then we're going to go into a steep dive, get the poppy lights, the correct colors, and just do the rest. Gauge depth with the shadow, just kind of be able to tell how far you are above the runway. Don't go into fixed cam. Just go into regular cam. Just press reset if you aren't sure. Follow cam. I think that's it. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're buttering from the cockpit, just be aware of not floating the runway, because I do that quite often, like I just did. Float the runway, then I started to gain speed. I mean, then I started to gain altitude, which meant I lost speed, and I just like kind of stalled into the runway. Yeah, that's why these landings. That's why my videos take multiple tries for me to do, because I do stupid stuff like that. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.
Pull up.
150, 40, 30, 20, 10, 10. 150, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Pull up.
150, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes. Nope. Terrain, terrain. Pull